Hey, how y'all doing? This is Mongo Slade, and today we're going to talk about some gimmicks from William Regal. But first, hit that like button for me. Also, hit subscribe, unless you're already subscribed, in which case, thank you for being subscribed. So, in the early 1990s, Lord Steven Regal dominated the lower mid card of WCW, having largely 20-minute matches with nobodies. Sometimes, there was named guys. Sometimes it was Bobby Eaton. I believe he maybe even wrestled Dustin Rhodes a couple of times. I know he had a pretty good lengthy match with Dustin on one of the WCW pay-per-views that I watched. I think it might have been Super Brawl. I couldn't tell you which year. But he was the character was essentially everything Americans think the English are, which is basically that they never changed from 1772 or some nonsense. He came out dressed like something out of Paul Revere's Nightmares with the blue bloods, and it was like a long running gimmick. And I would imagine, you know, how some people may see, like, if you're black and you see like what's that, Chad Gaspard and JTG Crime Time, and you're like, man, white people think we all like that. I know English people have to look at Laura Steven Regal and think like, why Americans think we all dress like that? Why all Americans think that, it's still 1692 sailing across the ocean blue in England? And it's like almost every English character is pretty much some version of what Lord Steven Regal was. But he was pretty successful as far, like I said, I think he was a tag team champion, TV champion. And then he kind of did everything he could do. He wasn't going anywhere in WCW. But before he left, he did manage to leave us with quite a few gems. And one my favorite gem is what ended up kind of, he says it didn't get him fired. But we know that it didn't help his case. So apparently William Regal was on the drugs because that was his thing. It kind of ruined his career, if we're being quite honest. This is a guy who could have been, who knows what he could have been. He's such a phenomenal talent. But he had a drug problem. He said he was coming back from being suspended or something like that, and he got a prime position to work with one Bill Goldberg. And he says that William Regal was told 6 minutes, do 6 minutes with Bill Goldberg. It was going to be the longest match of Bill Goldberg's entire life. Then they went out there. He said Goldberg never worked a 6 minute match before, didn't know what to do. He was going to work around him. He said he did nothing out of the ordinary. He did the 6 minutes he was told to do by the agent. And then when he came back, Eric Bischoff ripped into him. One, for going so long. Two, for cutting into Goldberg and making Goldberg look stupid. And he beat up Goldberg. Goldberg then claimed that William Regal was taking liberties and was kicking him in the face hard and all this kind of crazy stuff. It was a bizarre, insane story of Goldberg basically claiming William Regal and Dave Taylor as guys who were legitimate, they kind of didn't appreciate his push, or they had bad attitudes and drug problems and all this type of stuff, and they took advantage of him, which is weird because Goldberg is like crazy, right? Like he's like you kind of remember that wrestling is a work when you realize that Goldberg couldn't beat up William Regal. Anyway, which it's just silly, it's silly stuff. Anyway, this didn't give William Regal. He says he was fired 5 months later because he was on drugs, but it's generally accepted that the Goldberg situation, where he stiffed Goldberg, quote unquote, put it in quotations because we don't know whether it actually happened that way or not. And the situation where he went long with Goldberg and took advantage of him is what cost him his job. Even though I'm pretty sure that there should be evidence whether he was still there after he left. Again, WCW is not my thing. So, but I do remember seeing that match, and I do remember hearing all about this stuff when it took place, or well, as it became a thing on the internet through like Steve Austin podcasts and stuff like that. So he ended up jumping ship to WWE. Oh boy, I'm so glad he did. because we got the real man's man, a gimmick that cannot be topped in hilarity. It is one of the single. Now here's the crazy thing that made it so funny is because they took something that was very WCW, which is the way that they structured the theme songs. Now, when it comes to WWE, there's only like two people who had like these silly theme songs. Well, three: Shawn Michaels, the Honky Tonk Man, and the Big Boss Man. Like, if you listen to their theme songs, where their theme songs is almost completely about the character itself. You know, like I know the lyrics to the Big Boss Man's theme song. If you ever take a trip down to Cobb County, Georgia, you know, I love that song so much. You know, you say, you better watch your back, respect the law and order. You'll serve hard time. Boom, 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 serving hard time. But it's about the Big Boss Man, right? The Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, is about the Heartbreak Kid. The Honky Tonk Man, it's the Honky Tonk Man, it's the Honky Tonk Man, it's the Honky Tonk Man. But in WCW, just about everybody's theme song is like, well, they call him the natural, naturalist can be. They call him the natural, it comes naturally. That kind of thing. And Johnny Be Bad, and what's the other one? The Man Called Sting. There's just like 100 of those theme songs that are just like that. But WWE took that concept of just going to go really hard on what the character is, narrowing it down, and then tailoring theme songs to it. And they did that with the real man's man, with such a man. Oh, it is the greatest. It is one of the greatest theme songs in the history of wrestling. It is legit fantastic stuff. Okay, it is legit. I love it. I love it to death. Okay, there is nothing better than the real man's man as far as the theme song. Like, the character itself was obviously so stupid. It was a mountain of stupid with a cherry on top. It was fantastically stupid. But basically, the character of Steven Regal was that he was going from being a blue blood to being the man's man. So he was like a lumberjack. He's a construction worker. You know, all these stereotypical man jobs. You know, but he still acted like he was a blue blood William Regal. Like, he didn't look the part at all. He was still pasty. You know, he had that snarl, that still had the snarl of William Regal, of Lord Steven Regal on his face, but he wore like a hard hat to the ring. It is absolutely some of the silliest, over the top stuff that, you know, it's fantastic. Now, the origins of the character is not so fantastic. It's basically just a goofy Vince Russo idea for a guy he couldn't do anything with. He didn't know what to do with Steven Regal, a technical guy who didn't have a great body. He just didn't know what to do with him. So they decided to just turn him into a comedy act, which is usually how people who don't, you know, we don't know what to do with somebody, just turn them into a dancing gimmick, or you make them do comedy. But it's a very divisive gimmick, the real man's man. A lot of people hate it because it is comedy, it is over the top, it's stupid. But by God, man, it's for me. I'm the voice in the box right now. I fucking love it. I couldn't tell you match the first about the real man's man because I wasn't paying attention. But in retrospect, that whole package is fan-fucking-tastic. Everything about it is great. Okay, it has layers to the character because he is still who he was in WCW, but he's got this fake machismo on top of it. Now, they never, of course, got down to the point of, you know, it not really being him and all that sort of stuff. I think he had some more drug problems and it ended up sort of derailing everything. But it could have been a decent story if they would have told the story of, you know, him being kind of toxically masculine for the time, where he's basically pretending to be this super tough guy who who makes his own orange juice by squeezing oranges and chopping down trees in order to try to cover up for the fact that he's just a proper gentleman who prefers to sip tea, you know, and people thinking he's a sissy or something like that. And I think that could have been a cool story. Like that's something that you could start out bad and then grow from there, because that's what stories are. You grow them, they grow. But I'm glad the theme song is a classic. The look, not so much. It is funny as hell. It's not the kind of thing I want to see a lot of today, but man, looking back on it, it is one of the funniest gimmicks ever. And it's infinitely more interesting than basic blue blood Steven Regal. I mean, because Steven Regal is such a stereotype. Now, both of these characters, to be quite honest, now that I think about it, they're both stereotypes. One is a stereotype of English people, of English aristocracy. The other is a stereotype of manhood. Okay, the other one is just basically you're not a real man unless you can chop down trees and know how to drive a tractor. Like, oh, of course I know how to I know how to twist steel with my bare hands. Doesn't everybody? Of course I fight bears in the woods. Everyone does that. Everyone owns a flannel shirt. But it's like, no, most men are not like that. But I thought that it was interesting, but of course it doesn't fit Steven Regal or William Regal. It doesn't fit him at all. And but it was still fantastic for its time. I thought it was hilarious. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you guys later.